Thursday, shame. If we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. Brené Brown. You are defective. You are not worthy. You will never measure up. You'll never be enough. Who do you think you are? What's wrong with you? Do any of these messages sound familiar? Shame does a number on our heads and hearts and is often magnified during the holiday season. Perceived relational or personal failures, lack of resources, fragile faith, or feelings of unworthiness, or not being where we should be in life can become more blaring. It makes us weary and the number one destroyer of freedom, relationship, and hope. Brené Brown, one of the best voices today on shame and vulnerability, describes the difference between guilt and shame like this. Guilt is, I did something bad, while shame is, I am bad. A lot of us have hidden shame, unspoken things that are hard to say out loud, things from the past or present we find painful to admit. They might be things under the surface that we try to keep the lid on, financial struggles, hidden addictions, relationships falling apart, chronic pain, deconstructing faith, mental illness. Others of us are wrestling with openly exposed things we can't hide, divorce, wayward kids, losing jobs, observable struggles, lack of a faith that is acceptable to friends and family members anymore. While I've spent many years working relentlessly to acknowledge the realities of shame in my life and become more free, shame is sneaky and has tried to hook me again in this season. The loss of our son to suicide has triggered a new layer of shame. We must be terrible parents. I imagine people wondering, who does she think she is, leading people as a pastor? Yeah, shame is vicious, mean, and working overtime to try to get me these days. And probably some of you too, who are familiar with its tentacles. Usually our response to exposed shame is similar to the story in Genesis 1 of Adam and Eve. Isolate, run, or find a weird way to cover up. Regardless of how we intersect with shame, it's always insidious and robs us of joy, love, and connection. What's the way out from under shame's weight? The proper Christian answer is often Jesus. While I believe Jesus is the great shame destroyer, that response often perpetuates more shame and implies that if we just believed properly, we wouldn't feel what we're feeling. It's not that simple. One of the first steps in loosening shame's grip is to acknowledge it with safe people who won't fix, minimize, or judge, to practice honesty. As Brené Brown says, if we can share our story with someone who responds with empathy and understanding, shame can't survive. As you practice honesty this week, where is shame rearing its head? What's rolling around in your head and heart about your value and worth?